Hello and welcome to Legislative Report. I'm Anthony Tezak. As summer begins, so does one of the busiest times of the year for state officials, as it begins the countdown to the June 30th deadline to pass the state budget. This year, House Republicans introduced their budget bill and once again presented a no-tax increase, fiscally responsible budget. Here to talk to me about that today is State Representative Ryan Mackenzie. Welcome to today's program.
Thank you for having me.
First off, can you tell us some of the highlights about this year's budget? We know that it is House Bill 1437. It's a $28.3 billion budget. What else?
Yeah, you mentioned some of those top line items about taxes and overall spending, and it is really important that we do control our spending here at the state level. So for many years, there were really some great excesses in our state budgets during the Rendell years while he was governor. The budget increased about 40% while inflation only went up by about 20%. So we've had to correct for some of those excesses in recent years. And now what you're seeing is a leveling off of spending in Pennsylvania. And so, for instance, this budget increases spending over last year by 2.1%. But that's in line with the rate of inflation and population growth here in Pennsylvania, and that would have been a 2.54% increase. And that's what's called TABOR. It's the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. It's a guideline that's used by some states to control their spending and make sure it's in line with what's appropriate. And so this budget does that. It controls spending, and it also really focuses on the priorities that are important to Pennsylvanians.
Okay, now one thing this budget does not take into account is the much talked about pension reforms and the privatization of the liquor stores. Now, just because it's not in this year's budget, that does not mean that these are dead issues, correct?
That's correct. And so, what we have to do as a legislature and what the House did with their budget proposal is really work on what's in place right now. And so since those are simply proposals, pension reform, liquor privatization, transportation, those are the big things that people are hearing about and we're working on here in Harrisburg. Those aren't in place yet, so we really just have to deal in reality of what's in place today. So certainly things that are on the agenda, but as far as the budget goes, they aren't included.
Now, you're on budget time. There's a lot of topics that are always talked about, but one that you always hear consistently is education. How is basic education and higher education funded in this year's budget compared to last year?
Absolutely. Education is a top priority in state government and all government, but in state government we provide a significant amount of funding, so it establishes, this year's budget establishes a record $10 billion in state funding for K through 12 education. That's about a $100 million increase over last year and really a significant investment. And so, I'm a product of the public schools in our area. I went all the way through Parkland High School and actually all the way through the entire Parkland school system, received a great education. We want to make sure that our students that are going through that system today are going to receive those same benefits and the same great product. So, we focus on those things. We also do maintain level funding for higher education line items, and really, again, it shows the importance of education, the priority that we've placed on it here.
That's great. I think a lot of people would agree with that. Another winner in this year's budget is Health and Human Services. The Department of Health is receiving a $7.2 million increase this year over last year. Can you tell us a little bit about how some of that money is going to be used?
Absolutely. It goes towards all different types of funding for different excellent programs, diabetes, epilepsy support, ALS. These types of things need funding, obviously. They're critical to our community to work on some of those issues, and so we provide the appropriate funding for those things. And also, a great thing that this budget does is it adds $20 million for the intellectual disabilities waiting list. So this has been a real problem for many years, as backlogs have been building up with individuals who need support and care, and they haven't been able to get it. So this $20 million will help clear out that backlog.
Now, $4 million has been added back to the conservation districts, and you represent Lehigh and Berks County, which are both county conservation districts. Can you tell us a little bit why that's important, especially to your district?
Sure. Conservation districts have been a service that's been provided at the local level. The county conservation districts do a great job with really preserving and maintaining the environmental integrity of our communities. But what they also do is they actually help reduce the overall costs of providing some of the services that they do. If they weren't going to provide some of these services, different environmental tests and programs, classes, things like that, these might have to be provided by the Department of Environmental Protection at the state level. And so that would be another cost. And again, because they're local in nature, they can now often do it much more cheaply and efficiently. And so really it's a benefit to the community because it is at that local level, but it also saves taxpayer money.
Okay. Another important issue to the people of Pennsylvania is public safety. How has House Republicans ensured that public safety is a top priority in this year's budget?
Sure. You know, one of the things that's been an ongoing problem is funding for our state troopers. So this budget provides funding for 300 new state troopers, which is a really wonderful thing that is long overdue. It also proposes $4 million for violence prevention programs. And again, public safety, that's one of those core government services, and so we were glad that we were able to provide the funding for the things that are necessary there.
Okay. And also, can you tell us a little bit about how this year's budget is helping with job creation and the economy? I mean, we know Pennsylvania is also in a recovery mode. You know, how does the budget help that?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, this is another one of the things that we're focused on. Job creation is, when I came into office, has been my #1 focus. And so it's something that we're deeply committed to. And with job creation, one of the things, it's a companion piece that we're doing in conjunction with the budget, is trying to lower the corporate net income tax so that we close loopholes and make the taxes more fair and also lower for all businesses so that we can create jobs here in Pennsylvania.
All right, Representative Ryan Mackenzie, can you tell us, everyone knows constitutionally we need to have this budget passed by June 30th. Since the Republicans have taken over the majority, we've successfully been able to do that each and every year. Are we going to hit that goal again this year?
That's correct. You know, it is our constitutional requirement to meet that June 30th deadline, and we're going to do that again this year. I'm confident of that. And again, we're going to put in place a budget that is responsible in terms of controlling spending, but really focuses those dollars that we do have, those taxpayer dollars, on the priorities of Pennsylvanians.
All right. Well, good luck. I know you got a busy month ahead of you, and once the budget's passed, love to speak to you about that again.
Thank you.
That's all the time we have for today's program. If you have questions about today's topic or any state government-related matter, please feel free to contact Representative Mackenzie at his local office or through his website. That address and phone number will be shown in just a moment. Thanks for watching, and please join us next time for another edition of Legislative Report.